We grew up on Great Spring Road. The farm was there since 1912. The property today looks like it used to, but there's been some of this stuff that I've had to take down some of the building because it was unsafe for us. I've had to take down this old smokehouse and one of the old chicken houses, but it's pretty much the same. A lot of the old big houses there where Granddad lived at, and that's still there.
The woods are still there though.
Yeah,
that's the part I love. I like to go into the woods.
Growing up on the farm, we had chickens and hogs and cows and pigs. You just had a whole bunch of stuff and crops in the field and just a lot of stuff to do, so we weren't really bored.
Everybody knew everybody. You knew everybody who was on the farm next to you, and you worked together. If they needed help, we go over there and help them. If we needed help, they'd come help us. It's like I tell people sometimes, I feel like I had 40 parents because everybody knew everybody. And if they caught me misbehaving,
we were in trouble.
They would pull us aside and they would give us a talking to.
We just grew up with our grandparents and our aunt and uncles. A great uncle and great aunt lived in the big house with my granddad, Rob Stallings, and they were kind of our mentors also.
And my grandmother was the daughter of Jeremiah J. Johnson, who lived at the castle.
Farm is 170 acres total.
Farmland, yeah.
The open land was like 80 acres of open land, where the crops are, and there's about 70 acres of woodland.
Yeah.
And it goes all the way down to Echo Lake.
Yeah. Peanuts, corn, soybeans. We did rye. We had a section of the field set off for rye because that's what we use for our cover crop. And I think one year Daddy tried
Milo. I think it was Milo.
They were always trying different things every now and then, but they tried that. But mainly peanuts. Peanuts was the best though. That was the best.
That was our favorite.
That's our favorites to this day. For me, and probably for Darden too, it's the smell of peanuts in the air when they're dug. Because here you get those cool nights and the smell of the peanuts drying on top of the ground. It's a beautiful aroma.
You just could smell that smell. You can tell when somebody got peanuts around when you're driving down the road, if they're picking peanuts or they're just freshly dug, you can smell them. Sure, and it's a smell you don't forget.
And one thing I used to do, Darden may have done it too, but I remember going out there, I'd get a cold Pepsi, I'd go climb up on top of the trailer, and I would just sit there with a cold Pepsi and I would just eat peanuts right off the top. And it was just like, oh, this is heaven. This is what it's all about. I loved it. And it felt good too, because if it was a cool night, the hot air's coming up through the peanuts and you're up there and you're going, wow, this is really nice. You could lay back and just go to sleep.
When Dad was younger, he'd always go up to Bath County hunting with some friends, and they had tobacco out there close to Bristol. Daddy brought some seed home, and he planted all the seeds, and then he would set out the plants and actually grew tobacco, and then he would dry it in one of our shelters, and then he would, end of the year, he would bale it up and carry it to the buying station out there in Bristol. And it was just odd that he was the only one that I know of in Isle of Wight County that actually had an allotment for tobacco.
Yeah. My main chore, well, was feeding the hogs. We did that morning and evening. So we did that, but my main chore was helping my grandfather in the peach orchard. He taught me my work ethic. I learned it from him, but he taught me how to take care of trees. You get up in the spring and you have to go out there before the sun got up and sprayed the trees down before they bloom. And then it's just taking care, pruning, shaping the trees, and he grew good peaches. I mean, he knew how to do it.
He had about 50 trees, and he had orange trees, and he had bananas. We even grew a pineapple one year. And I mean, he would always have a backup plan if the crops weren't that good that year. The daily routine, you know, we get up and we collect eggs, and my Aunt Mag would make butter, and we'd always sit around on the porch and we'd take the butter churn and we'd churn a little while and then pass it on to somebody else, and we'd make homemade ice cream for family reunions, or just some hot summer day we'd get underneath the pecan trees and just sit there and churn a big thing of ice cream.
And my Aunt Mag, she knew the chickens personally. She would take me out there, and I didn't want to be pecked, because you reach into you have to put your hand underneath the chicken to get the eggs. And she knew which ones would peck and which ones wouldn't. And she was trying to teach me that it's okay if they peck you. But I said, well, I don't like that at all. She doesn't mean any harm, but she's trying to protect her eggs. And I said, but yeah, it was uncomfortable.
Shopping peanuts, Granddaddy would get us out of bed, and he'd say, all right, you're gonna be in this field today, and you stay here, and I'll pick you up at lunchtime.
Yeah.
And then you go home and eat lunch, and then you're right back to the field till almost dark, and you just keep chopping all the weeds out of the peanuts until you get done.
And those rows seemed so long.
Yeah.
As kids, they were. And after we got to be adults, they weren't that long, because we weren't chopping the weeds out then. But back then, you know, here's your hoe, and you go out there and you just start, and you go down the road. But it's just like they were like 100 miles long. It's like, we're going to ever finish this? The tractor work was probably the best. My first lesson pulling a disc harrow, I was with my grandfather.
This is the new Ford Flexo Hitch Disc Harrow, Series J lift type.
He was teaching me how to pull a disc harrow in the field, what to look for. If I'm going too fast, he would show me what's going to happen if I go too fast. And it was years before I got to graduate to the plowing. My dad taught us how to plow, because that's a little bit different. It was particularly fun when you went out there and you plowed, and here come the seagulls, because they're coming for all the worms that are being turned up.
Yeah.
And you know, all those years I did that, I never got dropped going by a seagull.
Well, I got to tell a story on Robbie, because he was in the big field one day with we had a Minneapolis Moline, and he ran out of gas in the field. He walks to the house, gets a jug. A little bit later on, I look up there and I see the tractor, and this big stream of black smoke coming out of the tractor. I said, oh no, he's done put diesel fuel in this gasoline tractor.
No one told me it was, I didn't know. Every other tractor used diesel fuel.
Well, but then we had to drain the tank once we got it back to the house, and then we had to get it going again. But it still smoked, I think, from that day on. It still had a little bit of that black smoke coming out ever since Robbie put the diesel fuel in it.
I know.
So,
and that was my favorite tractor too.
Yeah, that was his favorite tractor.
That was my favorite tractor. Windsor Castle, it's one of the coolest places on earth as far as we're concerned. When we were growing up, we played in those woods all around Windsor Park, because Uncle Jerry had his hogs out there in the woods. We loved Uncle Jerry, and we used to go over there all the time. And those outbuildings in the back of the farm buildings where Uncle Jerry kept a lot of his equipment. And I just thought that was the neatest place on earth. And a little white house, Uncle Jerry, that was his office.
That was his office. One day, somebody brought me a picture. And it was a picture of my dad, Bobby Stallings, and his brother, Jerry Stallings, and their neighbor, Marion Robinson. And they had a cart with a goat, and they all had their hats on. Then I found out that the goat cart was actually left in the office of Uncle Jerry.
My grandmother, she was a great lover of poetry, and I've got some of her books that they gave me because I write poetry. And I remember getting those books and opening up, and in the margins of all these books by Keats and all these guys, and she wrote in the margins what that poem was saying to her. You loved her biscuits. And she would give you as many biscuits as you wanted. You put biscuits in every pocket, and you would eat on those biscuits all day long.
Good memories from just being raised here.